Good evening. It's the 3rd of September 2022. Welcome to the Prime Time News here on TV1 for the News First team where the people come first. I'm Senita Senanayaka. Before we take a look at the stories in detail, let's take a look at the headlines.
Ministers and MPs flock to BIA to welcome back former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Price of bread increases to 300 rupees.
දැන් ජනතාවට පාන් කියා ගන්න බැරි කාලයක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ.
දුප්පත් මිනිසුන්ට ගොඩක්ම අමාරු ජීවත් වෙන්න.
Telecommunication and internet charges to increase from the 5th. CBSL governor issues warning on future protests.
දුප්පත් අඩුවක් ධම්මයට ජීවත් වෙන ප්‍රත්‍යත්තරල පාට බැස්සොත් ඒක ලේ ඇග්‍රීමෙන් කලවර. පාටවත් බයි කන්ට්‍රෝල්.
Paris Club ready to start debt relief process for Sri Lanka and coordinate with non-Paris Club members. Sri Lanka Police celebrates 156 years of excellence. Several services declared as essential by way of extraordinary gazette.
On to your top story this evening. Former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa returned to Sri Lanka last night. Operations manager at the Katunayake airport said that the former president arrived on board a Singapore Airlines flight.
Security at the Katunayake airport had been beefed up when former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa landed in the island at 11:30 last night. Many ministers and MPs of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna were present at the airport to welcome the former president back to the country. At 12:15 this morning, a motorcade escorted the former president from the VVIP terminal of the BIA. The former president was brought to a residence located along Malala Sekaramawatha in Colombo 7. Former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and several other ministers and MPs visited the former president.
We did not speak anything about his political future. We came here to inquire into his well-being. He was a great leader in our country, so we came to see if he is doing well. He is doing extremely well right now.
The All Ceylon Bakery Owners Association says that a loaf of bread will have to be sold at a price of 300 rupees.
Within a period of just 1 year, the price of a loaf of bread, which was sold at 60 rupees, increased to 190 rupees. As of today, the price of a 450-gram loaf of bread is almost 300 rupees. As of today, a bundle of flour, which was sold at 12,000 rupees, is sold at a price between 20,000 and 25,000 rupees. So the bakery owners are helpless. We have received information that they are selling bread for 300 rupees by purchasing flour at this price. The Consumer Affairs Authority says there is no control price for bread. The authority says due to this, the bakery owners have the ability to increase the price of bread. Innocent people are starving. One slice of bread will cost 30 rupees if they start selling a loaf of bread at 300 rupees. The government must intervene immediately. Most of the consumers are living a very tough life. Consumers who used to eat 3 meals are now living on 2 meals. Very recently, a loaf of bread which was at 65 increased to 80 rupees and now it has been increased to 300 rupees. How can the people of this country eat bread? I need 500 rupees to eat just half a loaf of bread and a dish of dal. This country does not need a government for this. What does the Minister of Trade, Commerce and Food Safety have to say about this?
The import of wheat flour from India was suspended last week. We are experiencing a major crisis due to this. We are now taking steps to import wheat flour from Dubai and Turkey. But there will be a shortage of wheat flour for about 7 to 10 days until the stocks reach Sri Lanka.
There is a risk of small and medium-scale bakeries closing down owing to the spiking prices.
අපි අයින්සක මිනිස්සු අපි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ පාම් පිටි වලින් කෑම හදලා ඒකින්ද හරි අමාරුයි අපිට ජීවත් වෙන්න.
පිටි වැඩි දීලා අරන් අපිට කොහොමදත් මේවා කරන්න බෑ දැන්. මෙහෙම කියන ඇත්තට බේකරි ටික වහන්න තමයි අපිට වෙන්නේ ඉදිරියට.
පිටි නැති එක තමයි ලොකුම අවස්ථාව. පිටි එන්නේ නැහැ නේ පිටි ගෙන්නන්නේ. අපි මේ වෙන කඩවලට පාන් දානවා දැන් ඒක ඔක්කොම නවත්තලා.
මිනිස්සු කොහොමද ගන්නේ දැන් ආල් කිලෝ එක කීයද? පාන් ගඩි ගන්නවද 300 දීලා. කණ්ඩ වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ. මේක වාලා දාලා ඔය ඉංගන් කාලා ඉඳන් තමයි තියෙන්නේ.
In the end, it's the innocent consumer who has to bear the brunt of the price hikes.
දැන් ජනතාවට පාන් කියා ගන්න බැරි කාලයක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ ආණ්ඩුව ඇවිල්ලා දුප්පත් මිනිහාගේම බඩට ගහන ආණ්ඩුවක්.
පාන් නම් අපි කාපු කාලයක් මතක නැහැ. පාන් ඉතින් කන්න පුළුවන් පොසත් විතරයි. දුප්පත් මිනිස්සුන්ට ගොඩක්ම අමාරුයි ජීවත් වෙන්න.
බඩගින්න ඉන්න තමයි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
Plantation workers in particular perhaps consume more bread in comparison to other parts of the island, but they earn a daily wage of just 1,000 rupees.
හාල් මිල වැඩි වුණාම පිටි හරි කමු කියලා බලනකොට පිටි මිලක් නැති දරුවන්ට මොනවද කණ්ඩ දෙන්නේ?
අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ රුපියල් 10යි. පාර්ලිමේන්තුව වල කතා කරන ඕගොල්ලෝ මා ලොකුවට බඩු මිල අඩු කරනවා. කෝ අඩු කරන්නේ?
The price of bread is 300 rupees. A kilo of flour is 400 rupees. One loaf of bread is not enough for 4 children. I need about 3 loaves of bread for my house. Our whole salary is gone. We don't understand what the government is doing. What can we do for just 1,000 rupees?
The Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka announced that it approved an increase in tariff for mobile, fixed line and broadband services.
The tariff revision was approved by the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka. Issuing a statement, the telecommunications service providers said the tariff increase comes due to the continued increase in operational costs resulting from the devaluation of the Sri Lankan rupee. Charges for mobile, fixed line, broadband and other prepaid and postpaid services will be increased by 20%. Charges for all paid television services will be increased by 25%. The value-added tax on all telecommunications and pay TV services was increased from 12 to 15%.
Speaking at a seminar for the parliamentarians at the parliamentary complex, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe expressed the following views.
There is a difference between the loans that were taken in the past and loans that were taken recently, because loans given by the IMF, World Bank, Asian Development Bank and Japan at interest rates of about 0.2% was not a heavy burden. But as of late, with our income rising, instead of concessionary loans, more non-concessionary loans, including commercial borrowings, were increased up to 50%. But once the creditors stopped giving loans, at some point we became bankrupt. The government, the treasury, becomes bankrupt along with the country at the point they stop giving loans. It doesn't matter if the government is spending as long as the country earns enough foreign revenue to settle the loans. But as a nation, together with both the private and public sectors, has not earned foreign revenue. We go to the IMF asking for a loan for the coming 2 years, promising that we will rectify our mistakes. But we can't go back to our old ways of having expenses greater than the income, government lending out concessions and government corporations making losses as soon as this period is over. We will have to go to the IMF again. This has happened 16 times, but fortunately we never had to approach the IMF when we were facing a debt crisis. We always went to the IMF before the crisis hit, but after getting assistance from the IMF, we went back to making the same old mistakes. The best example is when we approached the IMF in 2016 and 17, where we increased taxes and revenue. But in 2019, when your government came into power, you reversed the decisions and lost revenue and access to the market. We can get some funds from the IMF and recover next year. But if the program we have been implementing is reversed, after the economy is recovered, we will come back to square one in 3 years. You will have the full responsibility to continue implementing a set of policies for the country, regardless of which government comes into power. But what has happened is when you go to the people during elections, you make promises such as reducing taxes, giving out concessions and providing fuel at low prices. The people also prefer that and elect you. After getting elected, to deliver those promises is your responsibility. Being unaware of the consequences, the people do not know that by doing these things, the situation will only get worse. You will get their mandate if you promise to give kerosene oil for a lower price. You must tell them that such things cannot be delivered, and if it is delivered, they themselves will suffer from the end result. With foreign loans not being given in 2020 and 2021, along with a budget deficit like this, there is no other option to finance these debt obligations besides defaulting. The central bank has to print money and issue it. That is how we survived during 2020 and 2021. As a result of this money printing, inflation has risen to 60 to 70%. The consequences of inflation will come after some time. The country needs a breathing space for the economy to recover after getting a certain amount of assistance temporarily for a temporary time from the IMF by entering into an agreement with them and restructuring debt. We have imposed an import restriction with the hope of getting some relief for 3 months. That 3 to 4 months will not be easy to get by. Apart from the economy contracting, we have raised fuel prices, electricity fares and water bills. By not implementing those price changes previously, we have come to a desperate point now. Therefore, the pain is more. During such a crisis, we must first protect the segment of the population that is at the bottom of the pyramid, the low-income earners, because they will start protesting next. When people have no means of income, they will resort to anything. Such a wave of protests did not happen in our country yet. The Aragale that took place recently was different. That was against governance issues and other matters. It was not a movement against hunger and poverty. That was a result of the change in the mindset of the middle class. If the low-income earners take matters to the streets, that will end in bloodshed. No one will be able to control it. Therefore, what is most important now is controlling inflation and allowing everyone in the country and empowering them to increase their income according to that inflation. That is the biggest challenge moving forward.
ඒක නිසා තමයි වැදගත්ම දේ උද්දමනය පාලනය කිරීම. සහ ඒ උද්දමනයට සලන විදිහට ආදායමක් ලබා ගැනීමට අවස්ථාවක් ලබා දීම හැමෝටම රටේ. ඒක තමයි ඉදිරියේ තියෙන අභියෝගය.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa questions whether a conspiracy is afoot to remove the current governor of the central bank and appoint the previous central bank governor who fled the country. He spoke about this at the Akmimana Gaul election.
Australia ඉඳලා අනේ ලංකාවට ඔබව අවශ්‍යයි කියලා ආපහු ගෙන්නපු ආචාර්ය නන්දලාල් වීරසිංහ වර්තමාන මහ බැංකු අධිපතිතුමාට
There is a conspiracy to remove Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, who was retired and living in Australia, after we invited him to the country from the governorship of the central bank. This conspiracy started on Wednesday. An MP who came to the parliament through the Sri Lanka Purjana Peramuna, who is now a supporter of the UNP, is asking Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe whether he is a dual citizen. He is not a dual citizen. What are they trying to do? They are trying to spread gossip about him with the expectation of chasing him away from his post so that they can appoint one of their close associates to that position. Are they doing this to reappoint the dual citizen who fled the country? The governor who robbed the central bank is trying to that same position. Is that why they are trying to remove Nandalal Veerasinghe? The first move to remove him was made at the meeting between the governor of the central bank and the parliamentarians. The next day, speaking in parliament for about 20 minutes, an MP from Gaul, known as a deal maker, in an indirect manner attempted to create the backdrop to remove the governor of the central bank. The country is bankrupt along with 22 million people. Against such a backdrop, this government is attempting to play games with their close associates.
රටත් වැටිලා ලක්ෂ 220ක් වැටිලා. එතකොට මේ වැටුණු රටේ ගජමිතුරු සෙල්ලම් කරන කකුලෝ ටික ඉන්න මේ ආණ්ඩුවනේ.
Paris Club members welcomed the staff-level agreement concluded between Sri Lanka and the IMF staff for a 48-month arrangement under the Extended Fund Facility. A statement issued by the Paris Club notes that the Paris Club is ready to start the debt relief process in the context of the IMF program. The President's Media Division stated that the Paris Club will also coordinate with non-Paris Club official bilateral creditors for financial security.
The Foreign Ministry spokesperson of the People's Republic of China, Zhao Lijian, said that China supports relevant financial institutions in consulting with Sri Lanka for proper solutions. Taking to Twitter, the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka, quoting Lijian, said, quote, "We are ready to work with the relevant countries and international financial institutions to continue to play a positive role in supporting Sri Lanka's response response to current difficulties and efforts to ease debt burden and realize sustainable development, unquote. The tweet also added that China has paid close attention to the difficulties and challenges faced by Sri Lanka and have provided help to the country's socio-economic development to the best of its capacity. The European Union mission in Sri Lanka has welcomed the staff-level agreement between the IMF and Sri Lanka. In a tweet, the EU in Sri Lanka said it looks forward to continuing cooperation on public finance management and green economy, including export industries.
Meanwhile, former provincial councillor of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, Vasanta Samarasinghe, spoke about the agreement with the IMF. When discussions were ongoing with the IMF, Ranil Wickremesinghe debated with the former governor, Cabral, on what the IMF conditions are. Today we have to debate with Ranil Wickremesinghe, asking him what conditions were imposed by the IMF. We heard that the documents containing the conditions agreed to by the government was signed. Why was this not tabled in Parliament? Why are you not revealing this to the country? The world must know what the Sri Lankan government has agreed to. I remember when Ranil was a lone MP in Parliament, he questioned the government on what the conditions imposed by the IMF are. But now we would like to ask Ranil, who is the President and the Finance Minister, why are you not releasing the agreement that you entered into with the IMF?
A silent protest was staged at the Liberty Roundabout today. The protesters expressed their frustration in the state of governance of the country.
There has to be one law for everybody. There has to be equal justice. We have murderers in Parliament while protesters are being arrested under the PTA and held in jails without bail for 90 days. That should not happen.
We are here to show our dissent for the state of governance of our country. We are disappointed. We were expecting a lot more when the new president took over in July. We haven't seen much change happening. We're seeing the same corrupt politicians being appointed. We're seeing innocent people being arrested and questioned. What's the meaning of this? Throw that PTA away. Why are we holding people for 90 days under this draconian Prevention of Terrorism Act?
The SLPP Political Leadership Academy for Political Excellence was launched today. The event was held under the patronage of former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. In more local news, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has issued an extraordinary gazette notification declaring all services connected to the supply of electricity, petroleum, fuel and health services as essential public services.
The extraordinary gazette notification has declared the supply of electricity, the supply or distribution of petroleum products and fuel as essential services. President Wickremesinghe has also declared all service, work or labour done in connection with the maintenance and the reception, care feeding and treatment of patients in hospitals, nursing homes, dispensaries and other similar institutions as essential.
Residents of Walaliya in Kurunagala lived for decades without access to clean drinking water. The Gammadda team gave new hope to the residents of this village by providing with a viable solution to this issue that has been plaguing them for decades.
The Walaliya village in Ambanpola, Kurunagala did not even have a well to draw water from. The people here had to limit the water that they consume purely because there was so little available. But soon, the residents of this village will have uninterrupted access to clean water. The foundation stone was laid for the construction of a water purification system in the village.
Although there is some water in the wells here, they are not suitable for consumption. This has been proved by tests carried out here. We tried hard to find solutions to this issue. We feel relieved now. I did not think that we will be able to realize our dreams so soon. The hopes and dreams of our children are coming true today.
Siobhan Daniel, Group Director of CMG, spoke about the grassroots journey of Gammadda over a decade.
Although we saw development in Sri Lanka over the years, it was limited to large-scale infrastructure projects like roads and highways. This meant the eventual creation of two countries within one country. One country is the Democratic Republic of Colombo. The other country is the rest of Sri Lanka. This is the inequality we see even today. When we see the suffering and sadness of the people in these villages, we had to react. We had to act. And when we faced off with obstacles along this journey, you, the people of the country, stood with us. And you do so to this day. Yes, there were those who laughed at Gammadda back then. They asked us what we were doing building small culverts and roads and village roads and bridges. But they did not understand that if the culvert wasn't built, children of that village would have to travel 7 to 8 kilometers just to get to school. They did not understand that if the bridge was not renovated, children using it during heavy rain and floods could get washed away. By relentlessly pushing forward, the Gammadda that we all created is now world-renowned. This is something that all of us did together. If someone is saying that there are no leaders in this country, it's a joke. The leaders in this country are found in the villages. The leaders in this country are found in the paddy fields. They are found in schools and in hospitals. We can turn this country around because the power of the people is truly great.
Themiyat Mel, a Sri Lankan residing in the UK, along with Anoja Pradeepa and Kanishka Priyanta, supported Gammadda to implement this project. The Sri Lanka Navy provided technical assistance as always. Over a decade of providing solutions to people of rural Sri Lanka, Gammadda is only a few days away from providing a lasting solution to a burning issue faced by over 300 families and a school in this rural Sri Lankan village.
ගලන මේ සතුට සුරක්ෂිත කරන්නේ Eslon Inside. Eslon ජීවයයි ජලය ජීවිතේ.
156th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Police was celebrated at the Bambalapitiya Police Field Force headquarters today. The ceremony was held under the auspices of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
To celebrate the 156th anniversary of the police began with the arrival of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The head of state was welcomed with a guard of honor.
ගර්භාරි පණබුවන දින පිටවල ලද කාන්තා පොලිස් සේවය ගාම්භීරව ගමන් කරනවා. අසරුවකින් 17 දිනකු මේව ප්‍රයිමරි
Several dignitaries, including Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa Abewardena and Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas were present at the event.
At present, human rights is a topic of discussion among communities. As the Sri Lanka Police, going beyond our traditional duties, we have launched various measures to train police officers to maintain law and order within a framework that respects the rights of the entire population, including freedom of speech. While the police officer must implement the law with the understanding that every one of us is a part of this society and that everyone is equal, it is also the responsibility of the police to bring society to this level according to that understanding.
During the event, the President awarded the President's Police Gallantry Medal to Police Sergeant Jayantha Gunawardena, who was guarding parliamentarian Amarakirthi Athukorala, who died during the recent unrest. As a token of appreciation for the service rendered by 4,450 police officers at the parliamentary complex, certificates of appreciation were awarded to 30 officers by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The updated official websites and launch of the police department's online publication were unveiled by President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
If anyone is trying to remove the Prime Minister and Cabinet outside the authority of the Parliament, They are trying to violate the constitution. That cannot be identified as a heroic attempt. We had to face such a situation. At that moment, the parliament was protected thanks to the security provided by the army and the police. Some are saying this is against the constitution, and some are saying that the protesters were not treated properly and that they were suppressed. What else could have been done? Are we supposed to provide them with tea from the parliament cafeteria? What will happen if the law is not implemented? Will there be law and order? Will houses be set ablaze? Will thefts be committed? There was a huge fear in the country. There is no point in ignoring this. The investigations will find the relevant information. I think the parliament will have to look into this as well. It is our duty to maintain democracy. Peaceful protesters demanded a change in society. The future belongs to them. We must listen to their ideas and move forward. We must remember, as politicians, we have made mistakes as well. We have learned this. Let's all start a new journey for our 75th Independence Day.
අලුත් ගමනකට අපේ 75 වෙනි නිදහස් දිනේදී ආරම්භ කරන්න.
The People's Police.
It was the British who took the first steps in establishing a formal police service in the country. It was in 1797 that the Office of Fiscal was created and entrusted with responsibility of policing Colombo. The Regulation number 6 of 1806 appointed a Vidane Arachi to each town or village for prevention and detection of crime in rural areas. In the year 1865, the police ordinance was enacted to stipulate the powers and responsibilities of policemen. William Robert Campbell, then the Chief of Police in the Indian province of Ratnagiri, was appointed as Chief Superintendent of Police in Ceylon on the 3rd of September 1866. This date is considered as the beginning of the Sri Lanka Police Service. The Sri Lanka Police played an important role on all instances when the country experienced a social, economic, political and cultural change. It is no secret that the members of police force put their lives on the line on countless occasions in performing their duties. A total of 3,090 police officers have lost their lives in the line of duty. The police continues to stay true to its purpose of maintaining law and order in the country and protecting her citizens from the threat of harm. The nation salutes the Sri Lanka Police on the celebration of 150 years of dedicated service to Mother Lanka.
People protest after assassination attempt on Argentinian vice president fails.
The Committee of Vice Chancellors and Directors Excellence Awards 2020 took place in Colombo on Friday.
The Committee of Vice Chancellors and Directors confer the CVCD Excellence Awards once every 2 years since 2006 to recognize, appreciate and honor the outstanding contributions and accomplishments in research, innovation and invention by the staff in the university system.
Before 2020 March, we have never ever experienced teaching, learning, examination online. But soon after closing for the first wave, as a team, we all of us started the continuation of higher education in the country. So that is the main reason why we can have a comfortable seat in universities for VCs. Because in this crisis, economic crisis, so many instability situations in the country and the pandemic, we have overcome everything. And within 2.5 years, the past, we have given the continuation of higher education in the country. All universities are doing very well. We had so many issues, MOU issues, foreign traveling 100% restricted, no collaborations. But even with all these, our researchers have managed to run their research laboratories.
Besides being the fountainheads of new knowledge, the universities should be the pinnacles of culture, crucibles of R&D, habitat for innovation and invention, and seedbeds of novel enterprises. When we look at the intellectual landscape of our universities, we see a range of mountains that have silently, unobtrusively, and selflessly contributed greatly to the noble task of nation building.
The third phase of the Divisavia program, supported by LOLC Holdings in a bid to support the worst affected due to the economic crisis in the country, continued in the Kilinochchi district today on its 29th day.
Today is day 29 of the third phase of the Divisavia program, supported by LOLC Holdings. Essential food packs were distributed to poverty-stricken families in 3 separate areas of the Kilinochchi district today. Under the Divisavia program, essential goods are being distributed to low-income families facing serious financial difficulties across Sri Lanka.
Thousands of supporters of Argentina's vice president have rallied to denounce political violence after she narrowly survived an assassination attempt. 69-year-old Sixtina Fernandez escaped unharmed on Thursday evening after a gunman's weapon jammed as he aimed at her.
Hundreds of thousands of supporters of Argentina's Vice President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner descended on the capital's historic Plaza de Mayo next to the presidential office.
In sports news, Royal College Colombo retained 76th ranking.
Fernandez de Kirchner has not spoken publicly about it yet, but waved to supporters as she left home on Friday. Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez declared Friday a national holiday to allow Argentines time to express themselves in defense of life, democracy, and in solidarity with the Vice President.
In your sports news, Sri Lanka won the toss and invited Afghanistan to bat first in their Asia Cup match at the Sharjah Cricket Stadium today.
Change in venue. Afghanistan put on a total of 175 runs for 6 wickets.
Outside edge! Oh! It's outside.
Rahmanullah Gurbaz top scored for the side with a knock of 84 runs off 45 balls. Ibrahim Zadran scored 40 off 38.
By the scrap reserve for Tikshana. Door end of the bat. And an easy...
Dilshan Madhushankar bagged 2 wickets for Sri Lanka, while Mahesh Tikshana and Asitha Fernando took 1 wicket each.
Chaudhary, that will be out, and that is massive.
Royal College Colombo retained the 76th Bradby Shield in their annual rugby clash against Trinity College Kandy today. This is the 35th time that Royal College have won the Bradby Shield.
The Bradby Shield annual rugby match between Royal College Colombo and Trinity College Kandy consists of 2 legs. Royal College won the first leg, held in Colombo, 29-0. The second leg was held today in Pallekele, Kandy. In the first half, the hosts Trinity College were leading 10-8. In the second half, Trinity scored 16 more points, while Royal scored 13 points. Trinity went on to win the second leg of the match today, 26-21. However, Royal retained the Bradby Shield, winning 50-26 points on aggregate at the end of the 2 matches in Colombo and Kandy.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Prime Time News here on TV1. For the News First team, where the people come first, I've been Sanita Senanayaka. Take care and stay safe.